Good evening, Scotland. Good evening, social media land. I hope you are all very, very well. It is Friday the 14th of February 2025. Welcome to Saorsa Live, and I hope that you've all had a loving and caring Valentine's Day, a better one historically than Captain Cook had, because, we should be celebrating this probably better in this fashion as Scottish independence activists, as people that are colonised, So back in 1779, Captain Cook came ashore in Hawaii, had a big punch-up with the king. I believe he tried to grab the king from there or something, and he ended up getting stabbed in the neck. We shame, eh? We shame. Anyway, hope you're all good. As per usual, we are streaming across YouTube and TikTok tonight, so do please take the time to like and share across all these platforms and say hello in the comments too. If you lose one of the live streams, just go to the other one and join in the conversation there. We're also recording this live and all the comments too to ensure the security and integrity of the live. Right, so big apologies that I've not done much content this week. I've been playing nurse, but we'll talk about that in a minute. I just want to quickly go through what we're going to talk about tonight. So for centuries, Westminster's taken our wealth, our industries and our resources, leaving us with nothing but the scraps. And yet some Scots will still defend this system. Some still believe in the fantasy of the Union, and some laugh while their own country is exploited, mocking the people that are trying to save them from tyranny. But they don't see it, because Westminster doesn't just steal Scotland's wealth, it steals Scotland's confidence, it steals Scotland's history, and it steals Scotland's future. It has manipulated generations of Scots into believing we are too small, too poor and too weak, and it's time to rip that lie apart. First, we're going to look at the Union and Labour as a whole, basically in the first segment tonight, and rip that apart. And second, we're going to have a wee look at how Unionists, Scottish Unionists, both soft no voters, undecided, and mostly the cult of the Anglo-British nationalist, have been conditioned to accept this. And then we're going to have a good chat about Grangemouth, and right at the very end, we're going to have a wee discussion about Mike Fenwick's initiative, the Declaration of a Sovereign Scot. Anyway, no more excuses, no more denial. It is time to wake up, because the Union isn't just failing Scotland, it is killing it. So I'm going to ask you, are you ready to fight for your country? In the meantime, excuse me. Stop it, cats. You've already ruined one bit, honestly. Well, I swear. Anyway, let's just do this one. Start our lives with an important reminder that we are fighting one of the world's greatest propaganda machines, the British state and their right-wing oligarch-run media. To combat this, we ask that you always follow, like and share and comment positively across all social media platforms on any of your favourite Scottish independence creators and commentators. By doing this, you help to spread the word of our cause and manipulate social media algorithms to benefit our struggle. So please, for now, like and share this live stream, and if you haven't already, follow this account. Thank you. Right, so thank you very much for joining us tonight. As per usual, I want to have a quick jump around both YouTube land and TikTok land to see who we have here. I saw John there. Hi John. Hi Wolf. Eddie Wolfie. I've seen you there too. I did see Kareem, but Kareem's jumping between both because he's a mod on both. There's Wolf Pet. Alistair Kilpatrick. Hi there. Save Grangemouth. Who's that? I know, I recognise the badge, but there's Neil Cannon as well. Yeah, definitely save Grangemouth, totally agree with that. Zen Bloke, how are you? Mad Monk, thank you guys. If I've missed anybody across there, just wave to me. You know, it's Henry. Is that Henry? Is Henry save Grangemouth? Very good. Right, Ken and Kareem are across, and there's Lewis across there as well in TikTok land. If Dave comes on, we need to make him a mod, because I promised him a mod because he's a mod on YouTube. But if he comes across, somebody send me a WhatsApp out of the mod team so I can find. Oh, there he is. There is he there? I saw a Dave. Let me just see. No, he's not there. Oh yes, he is. Hold on. See if I can. No, I can't. I can't change anything when I'm on the internet with him. Yeah, so there you go. Listen, so my week has been spent sort of like looking after the fam as much. Last week it was really quite serious with the little boy. We were in hospital and things with him for the day. But he was on the mend. He started eating properly around about Tuesday, which is good. And we had him out the house today down at the Yard, which is a nice little centre for autistic people in Edinburgh, which is remarkably cool. My wife also had norovirus. She was ill for a couple of days and then spent 2 days convalescing, watching the director's cuts of Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies. Now, if you've never watched the director's cuts, they're about 4 hours long. So she had square eyes over 3 days, which was great fun. But that's enough about the family. Right at the start, okay, we had a bit of a hiccup there because one of the cats was running around and I nearly pooped. It wasn't funny. And we managed to push a little button that we shouldn't have pushed on the control panel. But it's okay. We got it straight away. And that's fine. Okay. Let's get started with this. Have we all had a good week? Have we all had a nice Valentine's Day, first of all? Please tell me in the comments that you've all been thoroughly romantic with everything. And then we shall get started as a whole. Right, so why do Scots still believe in the Union? 14 years of Tory austerity, 14 years of economic punishment, 14 years of Scotland being stripped for parts while Westminster cashes in, and yet some still believe this system works for us. It doesn't. It never has. And Scotland is not in a partnership with Westminster. Scotland is a resource to be exploited, a wealth-generating nation that sees its profits drained away while its people struggle. Austerity wasn't a necessity, it was a choice, a political choice. They told us that we had to tighten our belts while they handed out tax cuts to the rich. They gutted public services, slashed benefits and forced families into food banks. And Scotland was hit harder than anywhere else. We have to consider awful things like the rape clause. We've talked about this before, but it has to be talked about all the time. It's a policy so vile that it forces women to prove that they were raped to receive financial support for a third child. The bedroom tax, we've talked about that before, and then obviously the most up-to-date horrible thing, the winter fuel payment being stripped away, leaving pensioners to freeze while energy companies rake in record profits. Scotland didn't vote for any of this. Scotland never votes for this. And yet time and again we are forced to live under policies imposed by Westminster governments that we did not elect. We should have walked away from this failed system years ago, but some still believe in it. They tell us Scotland benefits from the Union. I say, where? How? What security is there in a system where our government spends more time fighting against Westminster than governing for Scotland? Every step forward Scotland has made under devolution, free tuition, mitigating the worst of austerity and investing in our public services has been done despite Westminster, not because of it. The truth is, Scotland doesn't thrive because of the Union, it thrives despite it. And then came Labour, middle of last year. Labour's 2024 victory was meant to be different. They told us it would be a new beginning. They told us that there would be change, and Scotland voted for them. But they lied. Within months, every promise was broken, every investment scrapped. The Green Prosperity Plan that would have boosted Scotland's renewable sector, abandoned. Public ownership of energy to lower bills, gone. Labour said that they would invest in all four corners of the UK, but when we followed the money, where did it go? London and the South East, as per usual. Scotland, a fraction of what it contributes. That's all we get back. In fact, our record settlement that we're getting this year is still less per percentage than 3-4 years ago. Just like always, eh? Labour is no different from the Tories because Westminster is Westminster no matter which party is in charge. They take Scotland's oil, gas, wind and water and leave us with higher costs and fewer resources. And no say over what happens to our own economy. They tell us that the Union is an equal partnership. So why does Scotland always come last? The answer is simple. Because that's how the system is designed. A Scotland that thrives is a Scotland that doesn't need Westminster. So they make sure that we struggle. And still some Scots defend this. even when they see the cuts, even when they see the exploitation, even when they see that a pro-Scottish Holyrood has spent years cleaning up after Westminster's mess. Labour was never going to change that. In fact, Scottish Labour are willing to get into bed and roll over and bite the pillow, okay, to get back into Holyrood by voting with potentially reform MSPs. In fact, this is something we should be aware of. Check this out. Can I bring that up? Is it bringing it up? 1 second. To get rid of you and go on to you. I want to know why the image isn't coming up. Oh, I know why. Because we need to be there. Right, there we go. Right, so this is the latest Find Out Now poll. Alright, this is the latest Find Out Now poll that shows Reform UK for a UK election way ahead. Way ahead. 29%. Labour's the next closest one with 23% of the vote. We should be deeply concerned about the rise of reform. We really should. And we're going to talk about that next week and continue to talk about it because it's something that we need to be wary of. Okay? Anyway, are you ready for this? Are you ready for a UK Parliament that is ruled by reform and a Labour-run Holyrood that is a proxy of reform? Nigel Farage is going to be the next Prime Minister in a few years' time. I don't think that's going to change unless something drastic happens. So we need to be pushing our movement and get the hell out of this union as soon as possible. It is really important. And meanwhile, everybody that is a unionist, well, they should be owning that union because it's all their mistakes.
The Scottish Government are in a financial straitjacket, and there is never a scintilla of recognition that maybe, just maybe, decisions taken elsewhere are harming the decisions rather taken in this Parliament. Because that context is what the Unionist parties have bequeathed to the children of Scotland. That context matters. A block grant cut for capital of nearly 9%, meaning £1.3 billion less for Scotland. Look, I hear the Unionist parties heckling from a sedentary position. This is their union. They should take ownership of these cuts coming to Scotland. A £1.2 billion cut. I hear anger from the Conservative fences. This is their union. They should own it.
We like Jenny. I really liked how she said, it's your union, own it. And it's true, okay? We're told as independent activists that we're in a cult, that we are blinded and the union is going to bend over backwards and give us what we need, and you know, they're the best thing for Scotland. That we can't afford it. There's a £22 billion deficit that in public spending that we can't do anything about. Incidentally, before we continue, let me just address that £22 billion deficit. I don't know if you're aware of this, but Westminster spends £265 billion a year on quangos. That's all your non-government public services. Now, we spend a chunk of money up here on quangos as well. That's all the things that we take for granted, like the Botanical Gardens, the National Museum, the National Gallery, Historic Scotland. They all get government funding, okay? Because they wouldn't be around if they didn't get government funding. But the difference is we spend on our non-public services through the money that we get back in the block grant, okay? The 265 billion that Westminster spends down south, we give our percentage share of that as well. And that is public service spending. 8.1% of 265 billion works out to be just short of 22 billion pounds. So I think it's like 21.4 or something like that. Okay? In my opinion, if we didn't have to pay that share, we wouldn't have that deficit. So next time somebody says, £22 billion deficit, just quote the Quango thing to them. It says, yeah, but we're paying 8.1% of £265 billion to Westminster Quangos. Anyway, that's just a snippet. Okay, so yeah, I think that we should address this sort of whole thing about how unionists, both soft no voters, undecided unionists, and also the major cult of the Anglo-British nationalists, still believe in the Union. Why do they still defend a system that has bled Scotland dry for centuries? Why do they ignore the industries that are shut down, the resources that are stolen, the wealth that is drained away? Why do they refuse to see what is happening right in front of them? Well, the answer is simple. They're being conditioned, brainwashed, and basically abused. For generations, Scotland has been subjugated to one of the most effective psychological operations in history, right the way back from the start of this union. A campaign of gaslighting, fear-mongering and manipulation so deeply embedded that many don't even realise that they are victims of this. It's called learned helplessness, when a people are conditioned to believe that they have no control over their fate. It's like Stockholm Syndrome, when the abused defend their abuser, convinced that their suffering is somehow necessary. And some others call it cognitive dissonance, when the reality of Scotland's exploitation is so overwhelming that people would rather ignore it than face the truth. Westminster has mastered all of these tactics and ones that are worse. They don't just control Scotland's wealth, they control its narrative. They tell Scots that they're too small, too poor, too weak. They rewrite history to paint Scotland as a junior partner and a dependent and a burden. And they tell us that Westminster is our protector, while it's the very thing that's holding us back. For decades, this lie has been drilled into every aspect of Scottish life. The media, the schools, the institutions, all reinforcing the idea that Scotland needs Westminster. That Scotland must remain part of the Union or else face economic ruin, the £22 billion deficit. That independence is chaos, even as Westminster lurches from one crisis to the next. And the worst part, some Scots still believe it. They laugh when their own country is exploited. They mock their fellow Scots when we're trying to fight for something better. They repeat the propaganda they have been fed their whole lives without even stopping to think. But they are not the enemy. They are victims. Because Westminster has done more than just rob Scotland. It has turned Scots against each other. It has created a cult of Anglo-British nationalism, a movement of hardline unionists up here in Scotland who would rather inflict suffering on their own people than admit that they were wrong. People who would rather see Scotland starve than see it thrive outside of Westminster's rule. People who celebrate their own country's decline because to question it would mean questioning everything they believe in. But deep down, they are the victims of this system too. And that's why our fight is bigger than just the independence movement. We're not just fighting for yes voters, we are fighting for all Scots, even those who hate us for it. We're fighting for the undecided, the soft no voters, the people who have doubts but are too afraid to ask questions. We're fighting for the people who have been manipulated, lied to and controlled by Westminster's propaganda machine. And yes, we're even fighting for the cultists of the Anglo-British nationalism. Because even though they may never admit it, they too have been used. They too have been turned into pawns of a system that only benefits Westminster. And when Scotland does break free, they will benefit just as much as the rest of us. That's why this fight is bigger than politics. This fight is for every person in Scotland, for their future, their dignity, and their right to self-determination. And if you're undecided, if you're afraid, if you're still clinging to the idea that Westminster might one day change, ask yourself this: why does Westminster fight so hard to keep Scotland? If Scotland really was too poor, too weak, too dependent, why would they do everything in their power to stop us from leaving? Because they know what some Scots are too afraid to admit. Scotland is not weak. Scotland is not too poor, and it is not dependent. But Scotland is being exploited. And that exploitation ends when we say it does. And we have to understand and accept that unionist parties in Scotland are extensions of that exploitative union, and they will never put Scotland first. I put a video up on YouTube this week, which I've called The Labour Guy, which is actually one that's been made with artistic license by myself, because I've read, it's my voice, but it's dubbed over and made into something more sinister. But it is a direct article written, I think I got it in the National, from a chap that left Labour and went back to the SNP. And he talks about how, well, basically how it all works for Labour. I'm going to play it to you. It's about 2 minutes long, and then we'll come back.
Labour in Scotland will say that they promised this and that, and that they'll stand up to Westminster. However, the reality is they can't, and they won't. This is because they are run exactly the same way as the party down south. That's because they are the same party. Annis will try and claim that the party is Scottish, but the reality is it's just a branch office, an accounting unit. Has regular conference calls with the head office in Westminster to dictate policy, and everything that Saorsa speaks at First Minister's questions or to the media is decided for him, not by him. All 37 MPs are simply yes men, and even if they know the policies are bad for Scotland, they will vote for them anyway, against their country's own wishes, and against the better interests of their country. This is a big contrast to what has been seen by the 8 Labour MPs in England who had the whip removed for voting against the party on the winter fuel allowance. Labour MPs from Wales will also not hesitate to stand up against Labour's cruel policies, as have Labour mayors in England. The reality is, Labour are not interested in Scotland and are simply using their MPs to push through policies that no one wants. They're just lobby fodder. And don't forget that Saorsa voted for cuts and austerity when he was an MP and continues to support them to this day, despite saying, "read my lips," which had no true legitimacy whatsoever. This is why I left Labour, as Saorsa can't tell the truth and will lie for political gain, and thankfully the Labour Party has now been exposed for what it is, a hardline, right-wing, cruel and sick party.
Yeah, I think that's something that we have to be aware of, okay? That if you're still under the assumption that Scottish Labour is Scottish, it's not. Especially to our friends who are soft no voters that might not have voted for a pro-Scottish party last year, that they might have felt comfortable voting for Labour. But the reality is that there's no such thing as Scottish Labour. We know this as Scottish independence activists. We are clearly aware of this. We can go onto the Electoral Commission's website and look it up for ourselves. There is no party called Scottish Labour. There is no separate entity from UK Labour. It's just a name change for campaigning. Scottish Labour is Labour, and the leader of Labour is Keir Starmer. It's just that Anna Sarwar just manages Labour in Scotland. That's all it is. And he'll do what he's told, no matter what. Even within, I feel that it's a kind of a manufactured situation where he kind of fights against Labour, because at the end of the day, he's still going to be pushing forward in the way that he has to, really, and that is being pro-Labour. How are we all? Let's have a quick look around and see who we got. Speaking about things, they also see themselves as British and enjoy being in the same country as the other football team and their buddies every fortnight that travel from Ulster. Yeah, do you know what? There's a lot of people that are entrenched with football rivalry and how that affects their beliefs within the union as a whole. You know, it's a damn shame, because it's not about football. It's not about loyalty to a king. It's not about the Union Jack. It's not about any of that at all. It's about not being exploited anymore. It's about taking ourselves, removing us from a political ideology and looking at it as a national cause. The amount of times that I see on Facebook and Twitter, and even not so much on Blue Sky, but people saying, "Oh, I would vote yes if it wasn't for the SNP." What? That makes no sense to me whatsoever. Absolutely none. Because why? The SNP right now are the strongest, they're the biggest party of independence. Now, some people don't believe in them, and I get that, and I understand why. Right? They might not be moving fast enough for some people. But are we willing right now to turn around and say, okay, let's not vote for the SNP. Let's build up another party, the New Scotland Party, ALPA, ISP, whatever. Let's spend the next 50 or 60 years building up positive credibility, and maybe by then somebody that is 6-year-old now will be in a position to be a credible leader for these things. Are we all prepared to wait for that? Are we? Are we prepared to push on and allow our children to inherit this battle and allow the union to refine their skills of manipulation and exploitation even more? Are we willing to do that? Or can we get over ourselves and rise above it all and move into a position where we can actually campaign properly together for the bigger picture? I think so. I think so. Yeah. I'm just looking around for comments there. Okay, I'm going to move on to my little Grangemouth piece just now, because I think after looking at the union, looking at Labour in particular, then highlighting the reasons why some people still believe in the union, okay, that to actually demonstrate clearly and put this in front of them and say, look what's happening right now is really, really, really important. Because you can turn around and say, that was last year, or that was the Tories, you know, or no, that's not me, I'm not being gaslit, Scotland's not being exploited. Well, it is, okay? Consider this. Why do a lot of Scots, and I've said this at the start of every segment, okay, believe in the union when the evidence for our exploitation is right in front of them? Why, when we generate more energy than we use, are we paying the highest transmission fees in the UK? Why, when Scotland is on the brink of a renewable revolution, Westminster's finding ways to strangle it before it's even born? The answer is the same as it's always been. Westminster does not want a strong Scotland. It wants a dependent Scotland, because an independent, energy-rich, self-sufficient Scotland makes Westminster redundant. And they will do whatever it takes to stop that from happening. Right now, as we speak, Westminster is constructing a superconductor cable right down the east coast of Scotland, straight into England. They broke ground on that 2 days ago. That's them physically actually started doing it now. This is not some minor infrastructure project either. It's the largest energy theft in modern history. Scotland generates more energy than it consumes, yet we are being cut off from any meaningful control or profit from that energy. And so what does Westminster do? They build a high-tech siphon to drain Scotland's wind power and send it south and let London sell the excess to the EU for a profit. What do we get? We get charged outrageous transmission fees just to access our own energy. We pay more to power our homes than Londoners do, even though we produce the energy. I did a little recording of an independent conversation, which is kind of like a podcasty thing that we do with one of the guys within Saorsa. And he said the other night there that there was previously a politician that's from, it's either the Shetlands or the Orkneys, that was down in London, and he was a unionist, and he was the one that put VAT, I believe, onto energy, and was saying, well, you know, it's the same price for energy as it is where I'm from as it is in London. Well, it's not really, because you pay a lot more further north you go because you use more. And that is something that we have to be aware of. You know, you'll use less in London, and you'll use more in the north of Scotland just to stay warm. Anyway, we pay more to power our homes than Londoners do, even though we produce the energy. And this isn't an accident, it is deliberate, because an energy independent Scotland is a Westminster nightmare. So they take our power, they steal our resources, and they make us pay for what is already ours. On top of that, we're Westminster's nuclear dumping ground. And while they drain Scotland's renewable energy, they plan to dump even more of England's nuclear power problem in Scotland. They don't want new reactors in England. They might build a few, but people won't stand for it down there. So they want to stick them in Scotland. Because to Westminster, Scotland isn't a country, it's a dumping ground. And they're already preparing the public narrative. Whispers of nuclear reactors, whispers of waste storage sites, whispers of jobs and economic opportunities in the burdening nuclear power industry. All lies to mask what it really is. Scotland's energy future should be green, but Westminster's trying to poison it with nuclear dependency. Because Scotland that thrives on renewables is a Scotland that doesn't need Westminster. So they'll do everything in their power to make sure that never happens. But the final insult, the biggest one of all, is Grangemouth. And I want you to watch this, please.
Saorsa, you said you would save the jobs at Grangemouth. Have you let the workers down?
Look, it's really important here that we recognise the concerns in the Grangemouth community, that we are working to deliver a positive transition for the community of Grangemouth and that industrial site, and that's something that we'll continue to press.
But they're closing it. They're closing it by the end of June. The jobs will be gone. There is no positivity there. You said during the election you would save the jobs at the refinery, and you're not.
We would step in and put our money where our mouth is and invest in
Would you
energy.
step in to save the refinery?
We would step in to save the jobs at the refinery and to invest in that transition by making an energy transition hub at Grangemouth, and we would put hundreds of millions of pounds behind it to make it a reality, to protect those jobs and build Grangemouth for the future.
Bullshit. That makes me itchy watching that, you know that? It is really, really disturbing that he can stand up there on television and immortalise himself as a captured liar. A liar to the Scottish people. Yeah, we're going to save Grangemouth. We're going to save it. Now, the other interview that it started off with is about 5 minutes long, and it's ridiculous. If you could get the chance to watch it, I'll put it up on YouTube over the weekend, but oh my word, it is embarrassing. If I was Anna Sarwar, I would just go nurse my ulcer and stay at home, because if he doesn't have an ulcer from feeling so bad about this, then he's really not human. It's a disgrace, you know? Wow. Anyway, just as something a bit off topic there, right? Who is the guy to the right of Anna Sarwar? Let me find it. There you go. That's all the best image I could get of him. Alright? He looks like some sort of minder, as if to say, you better be telling the party line, buddy boy, otherwise I'm going to take you round the back and take a wrench to your ankles. It was kind of creepy. See if you watch the whole of that interview as well, the looks that he throws at Annis. Oh, maybe Annis is being pressurised. Don't know. Anyway, Scotland will soon be the only oil-producing nation in the Western world that cannot refine its own oil. Think about that. Scotland produces oil. Scotland has the infrastructure, but Westminster's let our refinery get shut down. Not because it had to, but because they choose not to save it, because they want Scotland to be dependent. They will happily hand out £6 million to INEOS to prop up their refinery in Belgium. Incidentally, Belgium is a country with no oil of its own, but it has around about 8 refineries. Scotland, an oil-producing nation, is going to have none. The government is also happy to hand out £1 billion to Manchester United for stadium refurbishments. Incidentally, that club is owned 26% by INEOS as well. Funny that. Yet when Grangemouth needs investment, nothing at all. They could have underfunded Manchester United by just 10% and used that money to save Scotland's only refinery. That would have been £100 million injected into Grangemouth, just as it stands. And if they didn't turn around and give INEOS the £600 million, it would have been £700 million going to Grangemouth. The 600 going to Belgium, taken back, and 100 million, taking 10% off the money, going to Manchester United. That would have been something. But they didn't. Because Scotland, a Scotland that refines its own oil, controls its own energy, and builds its own economy, is a Scotland that doesn't need Westminster. And that is something Westminster is never going to allow. So instead, Scotland will now import refined fuel from England, or maybe Belgium, from a country that doesn't actually produce vast swathes of oil. And Scots will be forced to pay for what it should already own. That is not an economic decision. That is economic sabotage. The union is a scam. It is a mafia scam. And now you see it. And if you're still undecided, can you please take a step back and see it now? Do you see what Westminster's doing? Do you see how they are draining Scotland of every last resort? Do you see that the union is not a partnership? It's a one-sided scam. It's not mismanagement. It is not neglect. It is deliberate. It is a strategy to cripple Scotland, to make us think that we're not strong enough. A strategy to keep Scotland chained to Westminster, feeding its economy while we struggle. And now, I hope, if you're an undecided voter and you're watching this back, that you can see this. And if you do, what are you going to do about it? Because Scotland will never be free until we make the choice to free ourselves. And that choice is coming, and the power will be in our hands, but only if we choose to use it. So I've written lyrics for songs, and one of them is called, one I did last week, I put it up on YouTube, is called $1 billion for a Stadium, and I'm going to play it to you just now. Okay, it's about 2.5-3 minutes long, so yeah, enjoy this, and it's all about Grangemouth.
They found a building for a stadium shine, but not a penny for the workers left behind. Grangemouth spikes are fading to black while the Westminster turns its back. They build up fortunes, tear us down, pour cash on England, let Scotland drown. $1 billion for a stadium, fuel from abroad, while our last refinery shuts its doors. trains in Belgium's land. But Grangemouth's future slipping like sand. No lifeline, no hope, just rust and decay. While they kick the ball and look away, they build up fortunes, tear us down. For cash on England, let Scotland drown. $1 billion for a stadium, fuel from abroad. While our last refinery shuts its doors. They say we're better, say we're strong, then steal our lifeblood, prove us wrong. Keep us begging, keep us low, so we never rise, so we never go. They build up fortunes, tear us down. For cash on England, let Scotland drown. $1 billion for a stadium, fuel from abroad. While our last refinery shuts its doors. Steel and fire, dust in the air, 1,000 families left in despair. Was this the plan? Was this the game? Make us dependent, keep us tamed. They build up fortunes, tear us down. For cash on England, let Scotland drown. $1 billion for a stadium, fuel from abroad. While our last refinery shuts its doors.
There you go. I quite like that one, it was pretty good. Davey, you were asking where the ground was broken. Don't know exactly where. It'd be up in the northeast somewhere, or it could be further south where they're actually cables are landing down south. But there was reports in the papers last week in the media, just a little one, basically saying that they had started the physical building of the cabling route. If I can find the article, I will definitely post it on your Discord, my friend, to make sure that you get to see where it is. It's a disgrace that that's happening, and it's a disgrace that some Scottish people think that that's an okay thing, to have our resources, our energy, our engineering all siphoned away from us. Okay, so last little segment for tonight is about Mike Fenwick's declaration of a sovereign Scot. It's something that is, something that's not a complicated thing. And I think that it's something that we should all get behind. It's just involves a signature, and it's something that if you're at the marches this year, you might be able to see him. He's also, Mike Fenwick's going to be touring Scotland with these, and he's asking every Yes group to do a wee bit of help to get as many different people signing it as possible. So let me go through my little script about this, and then we'll talk about it more at the end as well. So Scotland stands at a turning point, and every one of us must decide whether we remain bound by a broken union or reclaim what has always been ours. For too long we have debated, waited, and placed our faith in political promises that have never come to pass. We have marched, we have campaigned, and yet Westminster's grip remains firm. But sovereignty was never something for them to grant or deny. It was always ours, and now we must prove it. Mike Fenwick's initiative, the Declaration of a Sovereign Scot, is not a petition, it's not a political party campaign, and it's not a request. It's your voice and your power, your right to declare that you do not consent to Westminster's rule. Every signature is a statement that Scotland is not just a region, not just a subject of Westminster's authority, but a sovereign nation with a sovereign people. This initiative is not about asking permission. It's not about waiting for a referendum that may never come. It's about standing up and saying with absolute clarity that the Union was never forever, and it will not hold us captive any longer. For every Yes voter in 2014, this is something that we should do. We put a cross in a box, so why can't we put our name on a bit of paper? We've all needed the direction, and you know something? this is pretty good. You believed in independence then, so why don't you sign it now? If we could get all the people that voted yes, one of these signature sheets in their hand, and to get it signed, he takes them and he bundles them and he copies them and he sends the originals to the United Nations, which is a very positive thing. Okay, and you know what? If something really strong comes from it, that's great. If nothing comes from it, we're still trying, aren't we? We're still fighting. So for every yes voter from 2014, this really is the next step. For every new yes activist, this is the clearest way to declare your belief. No more waiting, no more relying on the politics of Westminster-dominated elections. This is about the people. It's about you. For every young voter coming of age, like my daughter next year, know this: Westminster has never and will never act in your interests. They have controlled your future from a parliament that you did not elect. Scotland's wealth, Scotland's voice, Scotland's destiny should not be decided anywhere but in Scotland. And for those undecided voters, please ask yourself, why are we forced to justify our right to govern ourselves? Why are we the only country that must beg for a positive democratic process? Why does every resource Scotland produces, every policy Scotland chooses, have to go through the hands of another government first? If Scotland is so valued, why are we silenced? This declaration is not about political parties. It's about you. It's about the people. It's about you taking ownership of your own decision to believe in your country. The moment you sign it, you are making history. It's time to break free of the waiting, of the false promises, of the endless cycles of disappointment. There will be no more "we'll wait and see, this is not the time, it's economically not viable to give you guys a referendum." The final stage of the initiative is coming, and Mike's going to be talking about that, soon. And when that happens, we should all be listening. It's something about when the dissolution arrives before the next election, when they dissolve the Parliament in Scotland, and Scotland's sovereign power will once again belong entirely to its people because there is no Parliament. When that moment comes, what will you have done? Will you have waited, or will you have acted? So if you're at the marches, find Mike, get it signed. Okay, he's going to be advertising where he's going to be on his tour of Scotland all over Facebook, and it's something that's really important, something that we should get behind. It's just a signature, and all you're doing is you're telling the world that you believe that your country should be independent. I signed mine last year at Bannockburn. Do you know what? I hope you guys sign it too.
Can't get no sleep.
Good lordy, the time flies when I'm talking so much nonsense. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. I hope it was all good. And I want to thank, 34 concurrent viewers in YouTube land. That's the most I've had there at one time. I hope you've all enjoyed tonight. I hope that everybody that's watched has subscribed, has shared it all, and has sent it out. And listen, everybody in TikTok land, that used to be such a popular sort of place for me to go and do this. YouTube land are beating you guys, I think I'm blaming the algorithm because we've got some great loyal people across there. Okay, right, the other couple of things before I go, remember that we have a whole bunch of social media things that you can follow: YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Saorsa, Scot at Blue Sky as well, and our own website as well. The website is up above my head just now, saorsascot.com. That's where we'll post all our videos there as well, and any blogs that we write too. We also have a Discord as well now. The Discord is dead easy. Okay, we're not doing as much verifiable social media sort of things going on just now. So if anybody has Discord and they want to come and join it, just send an email to info@saorsascot.com. Okay, and basically introduce yourself, say that you saw the live stream and you want to come and join the Discord and come and chat with us. We always hang out there after the lives, and it's always good fun to do so as well. So yeah, that's the show for tonight. I'm going to be going and jumping onto Discord just now, just to go and hang out for a little while. My daughter's itching to tell me something. She's actually behind me. You can see that there? That's her foot.
No, it's okay.
No, it's your foot.
Oh no.
Yeah, oh no. So she's itching to tell me something, so I'm gonna head off, and I'll see some of you in Discord. Remember, if you do want to join the Discord, it is info@saorsascot.com, and then you can come and do it. Okay, thank you everybody across in YouTube land. John, Davey, Neil, Zen, who else we got? There's Andy there as well. I've not seen Andy before. Hope you're having a good time. I saw Robert Scrimminger as well. He's a good friend of mine. Good to see you there. And Save Grangemouth too. And then we've got Maureen. I saw Liv coming across into TikTok land. There was Ken. Thank you, Ken. And thank you, Dave, as well. Dave, we will get you set up as a moderator. I can't do it on my computer, unfortunately. I need to do it on my phone. Okay, and anybody else that I may have missed across in TikTok land. But thank you very much, everybody, for joining the show. And yeah, see you next time.
I'll reach my hand